much, and thank you so much to all of our speakers. We're going to take some questions now. Let's please try to keep it to one question if possible, and we have a microphone right here from Audra. So we're going to start with NJ at Channel 7.
Thank you. Mayor, welcome back.
Thank you.
You described your meeting with President Trump as productive. In what sense was it productive? And I also want to ask you whether naming the finished product actually came up.
It was a productive meeting in the sense that after our first meeting in the Oval Office, one of the topics of conversation that we focused on was housing. Housing, not only because it was the foremost and continues to be the foremost crisis in New York City, but also because it's a place of immense interest in this moment across the political spectrum. And I knew that leaving that meeting, it was my responsibility to return with tangible proposals for what a partnership could look like in building exactly that in New York City. I stood with the president looking at a portrait of FDR the last time I was in the Oval Office, and I had shared the fact that who I believe to be the greatest mayor in New York City history, Fiorello LaGuardia, so much of his success was tied to his partnership with the federal government and how that could continue to be a model in the years to come. And so in working with my team, we sought to answer the question of what could it look like to bring that kind of partnership back to New York City at a scale that's needed to address this crisis. And so we put forward a proposal to build more housing in a single project than the city has seen since 1973. More housing than you would get combining Hudson Yards and Battery Park City together. And not just housing, but also parks, also childcare, also hospitals, an entire new neighborhood. And I was heartened by the fact that the president was interested in this proposal, and I anticipate it will be the subject of conversations to continue.
Sorry, we've got to move on. Ayana, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon,
Hi.
Mayor. Who initiated the meeting with the president yesterday? Did he invite you? Did your office reach out? About how long was the conversation? And did any other topics come up aside from housing and the detained students? Did you guys discuss ICE enforcement in New York City, the funding, federal funding to help potentially close the budget gap here in New York City?
So this meeting took place in part of a larger context of the last meeting that I had with the president, where we left that meeting knowing that we would continue to be in conversation and to have meetings, always bringing it back to how we can serve this city. And I've said that time and again that I will speak to anyone to ensure that we can advance the agenda of keeping New Yorkers in New York. And the focus of the conversation came back to what it would look like to partner with the city to create this scale of housing, what it would look like to create the largest rail deck in the world, larger than that of Paris, than that of Hong Kong. We spoke about the detention of the Columbia student that morning, and I shared my concerns as part of my longstanding belief that ICE raids are not only cruel, they also do nothing to advance the cause of public safety. And I care very deeply about public safety in our city, and we have continued to focus on delivering exactly that. And I shared with the president that I thought that these continued detentions, as well as cases of those who are out of detention but face the prospect of having to be forced back into detention, do nothing to advance that cause, and I asked for those cases to be dropped.
Thank you. Melissa, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Melissa.
In the latest Department of Homeland Security press release last night or statement, they seem to imply that the intention was not to detain Eli Agayeva, that they just released her because she's been placed into removal proceedings. And I'm just wondering, during your advocacy with President Trump, what do you think the winning argument was? And did they reverse course?
All I can tell you is what happened, which is that I shared directly with the president a list of names of Columbia students and those who've also been detained because of their activity on Columbia campus, and that these actions do nothing to advance the cause of public safety. And I asked that these cases be dropped, and the president said that he would look into it. Soon after the meeting, I received a phone call from the president saying that he was going to imminently release her.
Thank you.
A few of them are Columbia students. One of them was detained on the basis of her being present on Columbia campus at a protest.
Thanks. We'll go to Henry, and then we'll go to Sahaley.
Thank you, Audra. Hi, Mayor. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
Back to the housing proposal.
Yes.
What assurances did the president give you that he would follow through, especially given that he has worked to actually defund some of the major infrastructure projects of the tri-state area? And why bring this one forward when it's so cost-intensive to cover the rail yard? Could billions not be used better to build more housing elsewhere?
So the president shared his interest in the proposal, and I am encouraged by the fact that we will continue to talk about this proposal. It is going to be a long process. We are speaking about an idea that had its first beginnings in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It's a long-standing proposal. The reason to focus on this one specifically is in a city where we know that land is so precious and so finite, here lies an opportunity to create more of it by creating the largest rail deck the world has ever seen. And then on top of that rail deck, building more housing than we've seen since the construction of co-op houses and Co-op City. And that presents within it an opportunity to deal with a housing crisis where right now we know there are far too few homes in New York City, even for those who already call New York City home, let alone for those who want to join us in this city.
Thank you.
He said that he was interested and that the conversation would continue.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
go to Haley and then Joe right next.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Saley.
Did you speak to any local, thank you. I wanted to ask about the Sunnyside Yard project as well. Did you speak to any local electeds in that area about the project in advance to your meeting with President Trump? And if not, what conversations are you planning to have in the near future?
You know, we've had a few conversations across elected officials, labor organizers. Those conversations will continue because this is a long-standing project that will also require a long-standing commitment, and we're just at the very beginning of it. And I broached this with the president because of the fact that this is one of the busiest rail yards in the entire continent, frankly. And the city cannot build on these rail yards without the approval and direction of the federal government. It will also require the federal government shifting a few policies as it pertains to bond caps and risk sharing, all of which are impossible for the city to do on its own.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Joe, go ahead, and then we'll go to Inside Edition.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how are you
Hey,
doing?
Joe, how's it going? Sorry, I was looking for you. Yeah.
I'm here, not on the floor, in the
you.
chair.
Yes.
Could you tell me how the meeting came about, who approached who, and when? And I was also wondering if you can explain a little more broadly, you know, on the campaign trail, you had a very different posture saying you would be kind of the president's worst nightmare. Since taking office, you really have gone to great lengths, I think, to not criticize him and foster this relationship. It's very different than most Democrats in the country. Can you tell us why, you know, you're taking this tack?
So I said over the course of the campaign that I will always be honest and direct with New Yorkers about my views. The president and I have many disagreements, which we share publicly and we share privately. And I also said on that same campaign trail that I would be willing to work with anyone, no matter disagreements, so long as it was to the benefit of the city that we love. That is what it comes back to. Every conversation has to be advancing the agenda of working New Yorkers. And when we think about 12,000 new homes for working and middle-class New Yorkers, we see the possibility of so many more people being able to put roots down here in this city. And this was a meeting that was scheduled as part of following conversations from the prior meeting, which was in November. There was always a sense that that would continue. It's, as you know, not the first meeting I've had with the president. It won't be the last. And we will also continue to advocate for anything and everything that can help New Yorkers continue to remain in New York.
Thanks. Go ahead.
And so when it was planned? Sorry.
I think this came in the aftermath of the prior meeting. I would say that finalizing the dates, I'm not sure exactly when it was, but it's just part of a long-standing conversation.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you.
And if we could pass the microphone right over here to Inside Edition, then we've got time for a few more. We'll go to Dana next.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you for taking my question.
Yes.
What is your reaction to the downgraded charge for the suspect arrested in the Snowball pelting? And what do you say to police officers who are very upset about that and very upset about the incident?
You know, I will say first and foremost that I believe that our police officers should be treated with respect. They are at the heart of delivering exactly that public safety that I was speaking about earlier. And they've also been at the heart of responding to the city's first blizzard since 2016, because police officers were not just out there continuing to do the jobs that they always do, but they also have a tow truck task force, which is one that was chiefly responsible for digging New Yorkers' cars out of the snow, of digging out ambulances, MTA buses, keeping the city moving in that manner. And for that work and everything that they do, I'm deeply appreciative. And what I've said in regards to the Snowball fight is that it's a snowball fight that got out of hand, and I don't really have much more to say to it.
The charge, do you have a reaction to that?
You know,
Thank you. Answer the question.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll go to Sam and then Dana. Right to your left. You have the microphone? Sam, right there. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor. How's it going?
How are you?
I have a couple questions. One is that work requirements for SNAP go into effect on Sunday, and I'm wondering if you're confident that HRA has the staff and the capacity needed to deal with that paperwork and the requirements. Do you think the governor should step in with payments to help out? My second question is if the city council staffer who had been detained by ICE also came up in your conversations with Trump.
So I'll say that I'm incredibly appreciative of the governor's partnership for advancing the needs of our city, and she also stepped in the last time around. We saw providing additional funding in SNAP benefits to ensure that so many New Yorkers would continue to be able to put food on the table. I actually recall during Veterans Day, I sat with a number of veterans, and one pulled me aside to say that that infusion from the governor was critical in him being able to continue to eat that week. And so I think what the governor has done in the past has been truly significant and helpful. And I am confident in HRA, and I also know that the tasks in front of HRA and city agencies only continue to increase. I always believe in their ability to meet the moment, but also our city administration's commitment to helping them in doing so. And the names that we spoke about specifically were the ones in the context around students who were being detained on or around campus. However, it was within a conversation where I made clear, and I will always make clear, that I believe that ICE raids at large are ones that are cruel and do nothing to advance public safety.
Thank you. Dana, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Dana.
When you say that the president expressed interest in the proposal, what precisely do you mean?
I think that the president was interested in the idea of working together to build 12,000 homes, and that this was a long-standing idea that has not yet come to fruition. And within that lies an opportunity to deliver a new scale of development in this city, and one that starts to resolve an issue that you will find on the tips of the tongue of any New Yorker across the city, which is housing, and how New Yorkers can afford to live in this city. And also, a critical part of this proposal is that half of the homes would be Mitchell-Lama homes, which have been considered time and again by so many, including by the president, as being critical to the stability of middle-class New Yorkers and their ability to lay down roots in the city they call home.
Thanks. Josie, go ahead. And then we'll go to Heather.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hey, Josie. How's it going?
On the campaign trail, you talked about how you and the NYPD would be in lockstep because you're the mayor and your commissioner is below you as your commissioner. That kind of hasn't panned out lately. I'm wondering if you can respond to that, as well as the hiring of Fred Kriesman. Was he on the list your admin presented to the outgoing Adams administration to clear house before you took office?
So I don't know the specifics on the second question. I can tell you on the first is that I appreciate the work of my police commissioner, Commissioner Tisch, who has been doing the work to ensure that we're delivering public safety. And that's work that we do in tandem. That's work that we do also by being in constant communication with each other. And I think what New Yorkers are focused on is, are they safe in the city that they call home? And that's the work that she's leading on.
Thank you. We've got time for two more. Okay, we're going to go Heather right here and then Catherine.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
How's it going?
If you secure this federal funding, realistically, what is the timeline of actually getting shovels in the ground and bringing these homes online for people to be moving in?
I think this will take many, many years. However, we are not daunted by the length of the project. We also know that it's one that has been decades in the making. And so many of us, we aspire to help to build a city that can build in the same manner that it used to. You know, earlier we were thanking a number of elected officials, and one of them is State Senator Zelnor Myrie. And I recall he would share again and again that the Empire State Building was built in 13 months. Today, that sounds as if it is an idea of fantasy. And it is critically important that we do not fear the scale of these kinds of projects or think that they are impossible to deliver on. We actually have to do everything we can to bring them to fulfillment.
Thanks. All right, if you could pass the microphone just right here to Catherine. Last question. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor. You said the conversations with President Trump will be an ongoing conversation. Did you schedule a meeting for future, or when do you plan to go back? Does he have plans to come here to meet with you? How is that going?
I can't give you the specifics of when exactly we'll meet again. I will tell you, however, that as the mayor of our city, I will always look to keep an open line of communication with the president of our country, and to do so always with the interests of New Yorkers in mind. And that means making clear where there is disagreement, making clear where there is prospect for partnership, and always at the core of it asking, how can we make it easier for New Yorkers to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America? How can we make it easier for them to live here, for them to be safe here, and for them to dream here? Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.